need like a million yards. You'd never get it out of the bay and be able to move it or anything, but I mean, you would need a huge scow to do that with such a.
So,
And that's what it's funny when she said that, because Baykeeper says, well, why don't you do that? Well, it doesn't work.
When that big Army Corps of Engineers, when used to come in and dredge, they're sucking water and everything. What happens to that water? All going into their hole?
It is, they get, you know, the feds can trump the state. And so that's a huge benefit to them. They can go, look, Coastal Commission, I don't need to do anything with you. Because A, it's a main channel, they have no jurisdiction over it, and B, they're going outside of their jurisdiction. Even if they were to dump it on the beach, they could probably go to them. Because they're the feds, they trump them. The county trumps the city doesn't trump anybody. And so, yeah.
Miles, I noticed that I was watching the, it must have been with that first dredge, the one that swung around all the time.
With the excavator?
Yeah, the excavator one. I guess that was when I saw, it had a giant bucket that came down and.
Oh, no, that's the clamshell. That's what's.
That's the clamshell. That's that one?
Yeah. That one.
Yeah.
It is.
Okay, so what's the little thing floating on the water there?
That's the barge around it? You mean this?
No, over there on the right.
The red.
The red is the clamshell.
It's hooked onto it. It's hooked onto it.
Okay, because I just saw just a show going down like
It's
this.
opened up there.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, I see.
Yes,
I see.
Very
Okay,
good.
well, anyway, so when I was watching that and the stuff that they were putting into the Latalia
Yeah.
intermediate holding one, it almost looked like, I mean, it looked very solid.
Yeah.
I mean, it really had substance. I mean, it drained as he was moving it in, but then it had substance. But what you showed in that big scow thing looks very different. So it changed, but because of the transferring, it changed how
Well, it settles, and so when you get that stuff so fine, so it settles, and any moisture in it kind of comes to the top.
So what we're seeing, there's stuff underneath that's still like that stuff
Yeah.
that was pretty solid looking.
But
You can actually see layers, like it had settled in layers, and when they put it up, you could see a layer, like that. It was just fascinating.
It looks solid, but I've walked in the mud, it's not solid. I mean,
But
it's basically quicksand.
how could it come out in layers like that, just lines, like it was?
Viscous.
Well, yeah, it's got some water in it, but I mean, that's been sitting there and it's really fine. Even though there's water in it, the fine's really packed. And it's almost like clay, so it's like when you're grabbing a big plug of clay.
Yeah, it looked clay-like, that's what it did look like.
Yeah. So, the Harbor Fund. So what this, you know, the Harbor Fund has been in a bad state for a very long time. There has been a lot of sweetheart deals given for some of our properties that we have. We have well below market value for a lot of our properties. And so just back in May of this year, we did a Harbor Fund analysis and see where we're at. In 16 and 17, there was a deficit in the fund of $1.8 million. The Harbor Fund is not a general fund division. It's similar to water and wastewater. It's an enterprise fund. And so there's definitely, between the marina and the property that we own, there should be no problem having it be in the black. But because of these deals that have happened over the years, and some of these deals are in long-term leases, it's been in a bad position for a very long time. So when we're looking at dredging and stuff like that, there wasn't any, you know, free money up to go do the dredging. When we had the wharfinger built and the rebuild of the small boat basin, we received a Department of Boating and Waterway grant for that. As a part of that grant, there was a requirement to maintain $1 million reserve for the maintenance of it up until the note is paid off, which is in 2028. And so in order to get this dredging done, we had to tap into that reserves. The requirement with that reserve is once you tap into it and take it below $1 million, you have to pay back $100,000 a year up until that gets back to the $1 million reserve. So when we looked at the analysis and say, look, we need to dredge, it's going to get worse if we don't dredge, we're not going to have that revenue. We looked at different things, and so we looked at different revenue opportunities. We also looked at expenditure savings. A lot of our harbor staff, we have 3 total harbor staff that maintain 6.5 miles of waterfront. We're woefully understaffed, but the majority of their stuff isn't directly related to harbor. They're not out there 8 hours a day working on, floats and working on pilings and stuff like that. A lot of it is dealing with our open space, some of the homeless issues, those type of things, which typically are a general fund thing. So one of the things we're looking at is getting some general fund monies into salaries to offset that and make it more reflective of what their job responsibilities are. But then we also looked at revenues. We were looking at establishing new rental spaces. We used to have an office at the Fisherman's Terminal and a little storage area. We converted that and took all the stuff out of it and leased it to Albert Seafood. They now have a hoist, and we installed a hoist there. They're paying lease there, and it's at market rate. We worked with a commercial real estate agent, made sure it was at the market rate. We also have other spaces, the foot of D Street. We do a seasonal rental with Aaron Ostrom, what's his business? Pacific Outfitters to do kayaks and sup rentals out that facility, and we get revenue from that. Our existing leases, like I said, are nowhere near market value. We have processing areas that are getting 30 cents a square foot when it should be at a minimum 90 to $1 a square foot. So we're well below that, and those leases don't end for a little while. And what happens with some of these leases is that they're at such a low value that people are purchasing and getting into long-term leases and not doing anything with it. So it has kind of it's not providing an economic driver, but it's also kind of holding space back from being used for what it should be. And so with our upcoming, we've renegotiated one of our leases. It's gotten back up to market value. It tripled the amount that we're getting previously. And then once we're done with dredging, we're going to increase our moorage. Our moorage is much lower than what Woodley Island is. We give free electricity. Woodley Island meters their electricity, and even with that, they're still more expensive than us, and we didn't feel right to obviously raise our moorage fees until we had a useful facility. And so hopefully by November and mid-year, we're going to go back and make those more consistent with Woodley Island. That'll help. We're hoping increase our revenue probably, because we have the use of all of our facility and can make it full. It's not capacity right now because of the dredging issues. We can make it at capacity with a very long waiting list, and then we can also generate. So we're hoping to get anywhere from $80,000 to $100,000 a year by being able to fill up our marina as well as charge a market rate for facilities.
What's your typical lease term on those, and will you be able to?
I would like them to only be 5 years. The ones that we did with Albert's is 5 years. I even prefer month to month, but a lot of these businesses don't want to go in there unless they used to have 5 years. But the ones that are really bad sucks because they're 10. So we have one coming up in 21, and the other one was negotiated just before we came to the department, so that's not going to be like 23 or 24. But there's a lot of spaces above the EDA plant, above Pack Choice. We have 6,000 square feet, and I hate to say it's elected officials, but they come in and give sweetheart deals. We have an organization free rent of 5,000 square feet right on the waterfront. Now that's month to month, and we can 86 it. We're looking at getting somebody in there. As a matter of fact, there may be an oyster company that may be interested in going up there. But we have over 6,000 square feet there that's just vacant right now. Yeah.
So you feel like when they term out, you can get the market rate and that?
Oh, we will.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's always been the argument that they're the only game in town and stuff like that. And when dealing with Albers and Gold Coast, what the hell is their name? Anyway, there's another fish processing outfit. There's interest to come up here.
Hey, Miles,
Oh, yeah, okay. So anyway, the other big thing in order to get back to that, pay off that $1 million, is we looked at underutilized properties that are nothing but a maintenance responsibility. So we have properties underneath the Smoke Bridge that is about 11 acres. We spent a significant amount of time maintaining a vacant, blighted lot. And so we just went out to an RFQ for a lease option to purchase that. The RFQs came in, we're reviewing them now on staff, and they're going to be going to council with a recommendation. What would happen is they would come in, they'd get into a lease with an option to purchase. We'd get an appraisal on the property. Once they meet certain benchmarks and get it developed to a certain level, then they can trigger that purchase. And then we're very optimistic that then they'll buy it. And so the value is about $1.5 million. So that will get us back to our reserves and then also get us to a functional level to where we can start. It's probably more like $2 million, but anyway, that money can be used to go towards dredging, get our facilities. Once we get those up to snuff, then we can even generate more revenue.
And you're gonna need to ask the council to designate those TOTs for a harbor fund.
Yeah, and so part of the proposal in that is that our typical RV park, and this would be a mixed-use development as well as an RV park, but just an RV park is about $25,000 a year in TOT. We can earmark that towards the harbor fund, and then that'll be an ongoing revenue for the harbor fund. And anything that happens with because the RV park is just on the east side of the bridge, which is on the other side of State Highway 1, so that's the portion that's meant out for the RV park. It's like that. And so the other part will be mixed-use development, whether it's commercial mixed with residential, or whether it's a hotel, whatever it may be. That, whatever if TOT comes from whatever goes in there, then that would also go to the harbor fund.
So the RV park should go away, the big pile of dirt.
Yes.
Yeah,
And the big pile of dirt is just from our mitigation area. There's nothing wrong with it. It's good stuff. And tested and approved. It's not creosote.
I called it dirt.
Okay. So what's happening with that is all of the woody debris and all of the concrete and stuff is going to get sifted out. A portion of it's going to be spread there, the rest is going to go outside. It's just a temporary statement because it saved us a lot of money, because there's 6,000 yards that had to come out of the mitigation stuff.
How big of an RV park are you talking?
So it's about, I'd say 4 acres, a little bit less than 4 acres. And so there's been multiple proposals for an RV park in that location before. Elected officials chose to go with the last time it came up with Swim Possible to do it, and Swim Possible didn't meet the requirements of the rights to negotiate, so they went away, and so now it's just been fallow for a long time. And we'll still maintain our boat launch, and we have a grant out to improve that boat launch with a new restroom facility, new floating docks, and a non-motorized dock. And then the Humboldt Bay Rowing Association, they'll still get a long-term lease with whoever support the grant, so they'll still be there. That's all I got.
Thank you.
Sorry it took so long.
Okay.